I think I have a problem with going through your friend's things. I hope whatever you're looking for, it's worth it.
I'm trying to find information about the past. It's personal, okay?
Forget it. You couldn't understand. The officers, they aren't like us. They're above all that.
Hello, Mancer.
Hello? I found some of your father's letters.
I knew it. Tell me.
Most of the correspondence was friendly. They were very close. However, there was some tension between them over time. Some letters gloss over an expedition that they had done together, but what surprised me the most is when your father talks about a boy who was actually Scott's son. The last letter I found is a bit bizarre. I didn't really understand what he meant.
What did he mean? Do you remember?
Your dad begged Scott to stop the madness, warning that his wife's divorce was only the beginning of what he would lose if he couldn't face the truth. That it was too late for his son. He seemed to think Scott was on the verge of self-destruction.
It's true that it's rather mysterious. Scott, a son. Did you know?
No, he never told me about him. He obviously lost him. No doubt it's still a touchy subject.
We have to find out what this is all about. You have to ask his wife. Did my father really mean to interfere in his family drama? Maybe that's why he disappeared? Please, Zachariah!
I can't take this anymore. I don't even have enough to feed my kids. My job feeds a damn 40 more than my own family.
Keep your mouth shut. You wouldn't be the first to moan and end up sleeping under the sun.
I'm sorry to... You Angela Seeker, Scott's wife?
Ex-wife? What did the drunk do this time?
Nothing bad. He's a friend.
A friend? Ah, right.
Just looking for some information on one of his friends, Mark, and your son.
Get out. Get out! What right do you have coming around digging up the past?
Listen, I think Mark's disappearance was tied to Scott's research, and your son. And I know you were a researcher too, so I'm hoping you'll be able to help me understand the research better, and maybe even find your old friend.
The drive to dissect even the smallest details, to try to understand how and why. That thirst once drove me too, but I let it go. There was no well deep enough to satisfy that thirst. I was never as involved as Scott. In truth, I began to give up my work once we had our son. The focus of my research had been the study of animal mutations with the goal of vaccine production. And always wondered if... Because of that, I had been the conduit that carried the infection to my son. Scott was more interested in genetics and its medical applications. The second our son showed signs, though, I completely stopped my research. If I hadn't told Scott, he would never even have noticed. And his answer was to swear he could find a cure. He really believed that with his work in genetics and mine in vaccination, that we could save our son. But I was too devastated to help him. All I wanted to do was spend every second with our son before he was taken away from us. Which, of course, happened. And Scott and Mark took off on a wild goose chase that he was sure would end in a cure. I didn't get it. There wasn't anything he needed that he didn't have access to in his lab. And while he was off, I was alone and waited and eventually got tired of it. So I asked for a divorce. And then they finally came back, with nothing to show for it. But soon Mark took off again to find what I guess were raw materials for research that Scott swore he couldn't find here. And that was the last I saw of him. That's all I know. I never found out what their research was on, and honestly, I just want to forget it all. Please now, can you leave me be?
Hell, I can feel for what the old man's been through. I've known some folks myself who went through the same thing.
Make the slightest move, you're a dead man.
Breaks couples up, you know. Stress of never being able to have kids again.
Why never again?
They sterilize families who've had a newborn. Make sure they don't have no more.
It's sad, but it's the only way to protect our own kind. At least now I understand what the professor said.
Can't go through here.
Hello, Mancer.
Hello? I talked to Scott's ex-wife.
So, what did she say?
It's an awful story. Her son. Anyway, their son was struck by mutation. They took him away from them, of course, but it made Scott go crazy, and he was convinced that he could find a remedy. He asked for your father's help, so they left together, and were gone for a long time. Their exploration apparently didn't lead to anything concrete for the boy, and Scott descended into madness. And then one day, Mark left. His ex thinks that it was to bring back something useful for his research, and he never came back.
Shit. So my father's disappearance is related to that poor kid? It's really awful what they must have gone through. That explains a lot about why he's so crazy, and also why he behaves as if we were his kids. Thank you, Zach. That doesn't answer all my questions, far from it, but I have a better grasp of what happened. My father disappeared by helping his best friend who was going through a rough patch and wanted to heal his child. It's a sad but beautiful story, isn't it? I'm gonna think about all this. Thank you again.
You're not like other girls, are you?
Is that supposed to be a compliment? Or are you being a wise ass?
You took on a tough job. Driving places you don't know, taking soldiers on missions, scouting the front lines.
It's easy to do anything when you love what you do. I love not being stuck under a roof. Getting out there, you know? You call it tough, I call it lucky.
Exactly why I said you're different. Average person, girl or guy, lives on the safe side. They may not love the city, but they know it, so they stay there.
Life's what you make of it, and I want to make it an adventure. So if you're looking for some dangerous escapades, I know a girl.
Think I may just take her up on that.
Hello, Mancer.
Hello?
God. I know, I couldn't believe it myself. An explosion, right in the middle of Ophir. The roof collapsed. We're still tallying the bodies. Aurora bastards! How could they do such a thing? They have no regard for human life. I've been jumping since the attack. Caught my son the other day. Crying, just from the memory.
Mr. Mancer, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Big on weaponry, I hope? What can I get you?
Never noticed all the beggars in the neighborhood. This a new thing?
No. They've been here way too long, if you ask me. More and more keep piling in. They're ruining my business. Not a clue where they're coming from. All I know is they keep pouring in, broken, disabled, putting it out there for pity. Clients coming around don't like that. Me and my colleagues would pay a hefty sum to anyone who could get them out of here and move them to the slums or somewhere. You could be that someone? Yeah?
I can try.
Lieutenant Zachariah Mancer? Your reputation precedes you. A promotion well deserved, I hear. I'm Quartermaster Ryan Stewart, in charge of logistics in this barracks. Equipment problems or improvement, or you need to collect your pay? I'm your man.
Pleasure, Quartermaster. Captain Eliza told me to come find you for my pay.
Indeed, I've been expecting you. Here you go.
Word on the street is that the locusts are swarming the underworks. Patrol gonna get it under control before the shit hits the fan?
Unlikely. High Command's about as interested in the slums as they are the underworks. Why try to spit shine a turd? And what's it to you anyway? As it goes, little nuisances have a way of becoming big problems over time. Proliferation. And I'd be willing to pay to nip it in the bud now, before they start to hit our warehouses and personnel too. Well, you'd have more luck killing them in their nests than hunting them one by one. Or you could booby-trap the tunnels and catch the rats while they roam. Your call.
You already back, Lieutenant Zachariah?
Captain, all Aurora tunnels were destroyed. If they're gonna get back into the city, they'll have to come up with another way.
I knew you wouldn't let me down, Lieutenant. Find Ryan and get your pay. It was well earned.
Hi.
Lieutenant, how can I help you?
Captain Eliza told me to come find you for my pay.
Indeed, I've been expecting you. Here you go.